studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Okay, so we're witnessing something very, very unusual in this plot of land, abandoned plot of land right next to our hotel. A blue tent has come up. It wasn't there last night. It came up just this morning, and there have been two men moving in and out of it. Now, by reasonable doubt, it's fair to guess that this is a potential Hamas rocket launching site that's being set up just meters away from our hotel, and again, as I point out, bang in the middle of what is a residential area full of hotels and apartment buildings.
So that's the rocket being fired today morning, a day after it was assembled at the exact spot the rocket has been fired.
All right, that's Indian television, ladies and gentlemen, and there's more and more of that. We've been talking about it all show long, and the proof of what Hamas does, now that this reporter and his team are out of Gaza, they feel free to tell the truth. And joining us now is my friend, Rabbi Schmuley Boteach, America's rabbi, so he's everyone's friend, and founder of This World, the Values Network. Great to see you,
Great
Rabbi.
to be with you, Steve. I always love being with you.
I always love talking to you. Before we get to that video and more, the ad that your organization has taken out in the Wall Street Journal and other papers around the world, Jews rejected child sacrifice 3,500 years ago. Now it's Hamas's turn. And talk about the ad first before we talk about who rejected it.
Well, the ad is Elie Wiesel, and he is the conscience of the Holocaust, world's most important expert on genocide, and he's one of the most respected human beings alive. So when Elie Wiesel comes along and says that Hamas is not just engaging in human shields, but actual child sacrifice, that they are sacrificing their kids on this higher altar of Islamist idealism in order to exterminate and annihilate the people of Israel and the state of Israel, that's a very powerful ad, because there's maybe 3 people in the world who are in Wiesel's league. You've got Pope Francis, you've got the Dalai Lama, you've got Elie Wiesel. Now, the reason we did this was not only to squarely put the blame on Hamas for all of these civilian casualties, because how they use people for human shields, but also, Steve, it was to respond to this Hollywood charlatanism, this Hollywood hypocrisy of Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz and all the others, Naomi Wolf, who's a friend of mine, who fraudulently accused Israel of genocide. Elie Wiesel knows genocide. Don't preach to him about genocide.
All right, so who rejected your ad?
Well, this was shocking because the ad has now run full page, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, LA Times, Chicago Tribune, you know, the gamut. And I would venture to say that these establishments, aside from the fact that, of course, this is a paid ad, we're honored to have an ad from Elie Wiesel. It's not very often he does an ad. Nobel Peace Laureate. The London Times told us that they would not publish it because it could be seen as insensitive to many of their viewers. Now, you need to understand, this ad speaks about the suffering of the Palestinian children brought about by Hamas. It speaks about the end of child sacrifice, human shields. It is so respectful of Islam. It speaks about the glorious academic history of Islam. And Wiesel is not. He's someone who transcends factionalism. The fact that they could say that this would offend some of their readers could only mean their most diehard anti-Israel, anti-Semitic readers.
Right.
And what I think they're saying, this is just and intimidation. So I think that this is almost capitulation to that kind of pressure. But even if it isn't, this is press censorship of the worst kind. This is bias and prejudice of the worst kind. Come on, Britain also believes in freedom of the press, freedom of expression. They're not just freedoms enshrined in our Constitution. This is a travesty.
Is that not a Murdoch paper?
It is a Murdoch paper, and Rupert Murdoch is a great friend of the Jewish people, and he's a phenomenal friend of the State of Israel, and it makes it all the more curious as to why this happened. It's mystifying. What makes it even more so is that as of last night, our ad buyer told us that we were at 99% for The Guardian to accept this ad. Now, The Guardian is not a friend of Israel, and that is to use the British understatement. So it's astonishing that they would accept it, that the Times would not. What really upset us is once the story broke yesterday and it went viral and it went global very quickly, websites and newspapers started publishing contrasting ads, ours with the Save the Children ad that the Times published, I think, on July 25th, which all but accuses Israel of atrocities against Palestinian children. That would offend no one. So if you look at the kind of demonstrations that have taken place on the streets of London against Israel, where Hitler should have finished you off, and all the Jews should be murdered. I mean, disgusting, violent.
Are these mostly Muslims?
It would appear so. Yeah. I don't want. I will not.
No. Or is it? I have a hard time. I hope it's not the general population from London coming out into the streets. I'm hoping it's the very significant Muslim population, or from that population, portions of that population.
Well, this is something, as you know, Steve, I can speak to because I was a rabbi at Oxford University for 11 years.
Many years there.
So even the New York Times is reporting polls that show that something like 70%, near 70% of the British populace is unsympathetic to Israel, sympathetic to Hamas. It's sympathetic to Hamas. I mean, Hamas is a gay-hating, women-bashing, honor-killing death cult. If you have sympathy for Hamas, you don't have a broken moral compass. You have no morality at all.
Right.
So
no, you're right.
So I don't know. So when you demonstrations,
Yeah.
there is a disproportionately large number of Muslim citizens of the UK who are participating in this, and they seem to be the most virulent. But what's sad is that they moved to the UK, and you'd think that they would really enjoy the Western freedoms that are offered by the United States, by the United Kingdom. Do they want to go back and live in Saudi Arabia where women can't drive a car? Do they want to live in Syria where they probably would have been slaughtered on the beach, let alone all their other atrocities and honor killings of women, etc., and how despicable they are to the Palestinian people, or using your child either as a human shield or as a suicide bomber? That's not much of a future for a Palestinian child. But Britain, we're losing Europe. I got to tell you, some people even said to me, Shmuley, why are you going to waste your organization's money on Elie Wiesel ads in Europe when you're not going to change a single mind? Well, I haven't given up yet because I did live there. But we're losing Europe.
We are losing Europe, and it's very, very frightening. I mean, we talk about Paris and Germany, and it's very frightening. Okay, the video we saw at the beginning here, the truth coming out now. You talk about you talk about sympathizing with Hamas. One might say our State Department, to a great extent, sympathized and still sympathizes with Hamas. Wants Israel to sit down with Hamas. Jimmy Carter wants Israel to recognize Hamas because they're a political movement, he said. They're a legitimate political movement. But now when you see these, what Netanyahu presented today, what the Indian TV station presented, the French TV station has presented similar, is this going to change anybody's feeling? The State Department, Jimmy Carter, now that the proof is going to be there on camera? Hey, I was a New York Times reporter, said, now that I'm out of there, let me tell you, the Hamas soldiers hide in homes, they hide here, they hide there. But is it going to change minds?
It's kind of sad that the press didn't say all of this. I mean,
remember the funerals where the people get up off the thing and walk away when the cameras stop rolling? I mean, haven't they learned a lesson?
Apparently not. That's why we love your show. But let's be clear. First of all, Jimmy Carter's own grandson is running for the governorship of Georgia, telling his grandfather to shut up. So enough said. He's saying, if you keep on talking.
You believe he's an anti-Semite?
No, I don't. I believe that he is the classic Lenin's useful idiot. He is the simpleton who always believes whoever the weaker party is automatically the righteous party. He's amoral, but I'm not going to say he's anti-Semitic. He is not a friend of Israel. He has been a virulent critic of Israel, but he's not worth discussing. He's yesterday's man. He's a failed president. Most people would rather forget that he was president of the United States because of the damage that he did to this country, especially in international relations, and the way he weakened us, the rise of Islamist fundamentalism in Iran under his watch. But let's get back to Hamas here. What you have with Hamas is an organization that truly is fueled entirely by hate. So there is nothing that they are not given that they will not transform into hate. If it's money from the international community, it's to destroy Israel. If it's children that are born to Hamas, to Palestinian families, it's how can we use them to die on camera so that we can make Israel look bad. Hatred is an incredibly powerful emotion. Look at what ferocious fighters they are. I mean, even Israel, they say, has been very impressed, as it were, with how much because when you hate and hate and hate.
Yeah.
I mean, look how far the Nazis made it in conquering all of Europe so quickly. Hatred is a phenomenal fuel, but it ultimately can't last because it can't give people a decent life. And what we need is the Palestinian people themselves rejecting these Hamas. I mean, Hamas was democratically elected, and that's an indictment of the Palestinian population in Gaza. These killers and murderers are your elected representatives. Are they going to finally stand up? Are they not going to see that the Arabs in Israel live with the greatest freedoms and that the 1.5 million Arab Israeli citizens actually have the best lives of any Arab citizens in the Middle East? That remains to be seen. Or will hate continue to dominate?
That is a great question, and we'll leave it there, and can't wait to talk to you again. Thank you
for
very
having me,
much,
Steve.
Rabbi, for coming up. Rabbi Schmuley Boteach, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. All right, we're going to switch gears just a little bit and ask you this question before we break and bring you Give Me Five. Do you think that the President of the United States should be impeached? We're asking that question here on Newsmax Television, and we want your answer. And the way you could answer us is, there it is, right on the screen. How convenient. To vote, go to newsmax.com/Obama poll and tell us if you believe that Barack Obama should be impeached or if he shouldn't be impeached, and we will bring you the results. As I said, stay tuned. Give Me 5 is next right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.